Yeah, I mean, all these behaviors, like even that turn around and nip thing, right? It's not like aggression from the standpoint of she like wants to like attack the other dog. It's just really, really intense like bullying behavior, you know? And it just turns into fights. Come on, let's go. She's like, where am I? And then what we'll do is we're going to put her into just a down, and I'm just going to let her kind of chill in there for a minute. Yeah. And I just want to see how well she does with focusing in here. Yeah. Generally speaking, anytime we do a send home lesson or anything like this, the first couple minutes of like working commands, they like go right back into like their monkey brain of just being overstimulated and distracted by everything. All right, Schatzi, come here. Down. No. Schatzi, down. Good. So we're just gonna let her chill there for a minute. So only if she committedly makes the mistake, obviously we'll give a correction for that. So obviously a lot of, with the issues that you were having with her is controlling those impulses. So when she does get into those really amped up states of mind, we need for her to be able to quickly disengage and essentially have a really, really good off switch. So working exercises like that where we kind of let them get all amped up and then get them to focus back in, but being very strict about the criteria when we do ask for that is extremely important with dogs like her. And then we'll work a couple of reps of releasing her from that, then putting her into a down, then releasing her from that, and putting her into a down.
Is she only going to listen to you? Or
yeah.
I was like, no, she needs to listen to everybody.
yeah. The expectation is obviously any member of the family she should be able to listen to. The biggest thing when it comes to dogs listening to everybody really comes down to the person that's asking the dog to do the things to understand, we call it like the language, right? So how do we enforce something, right? Because that's really the key with it, right? Is not are we asking her, like she knows what down is obviously, but like if she doesn't down because she's distracted or because she just doesn't want to listen to you, like how do we go about backing that up, right? Okay. And obviously with her, we use general combination of, food reward and then correction. At this stage in the training, a lot of it is going to be more on the correction side because she knows this stuff at this point. We've reinforced these things a gazillion times with her. But obviously you could still use some rewards through the process as well with her. It's really not that big of a deal.
She's way more excited.
Yeah, right? So we're just letting her get her wiggles and stuff out of her system here.
Where you been?
Just at school. Come. Down. There we go. So same deal, just want to see that continue to get faster and faster. Obviously we have another distraction right now, so we'll give her a couple minutes to work through that here. So, and this is kind of the first start of it here, is we're just going to continue releasing, letting her get all excited, then calling her back and asking her to disengage. So, okay. Schatzi, come. That was better. Down. Schatzi, come. Good job. Down. Much better. Good job. Good job. Okay. So we'll let her hang out for a second here, and then I'm going to have you start jumping into a couple of these with her. Same deal, we'll let her kind of disengage, go do something if she wants to, and then you'll call her over and then put her into that down command. And then the formula for enforcing this is we're gonna give that command one time, give her a minute to do it, right? And we're not expecting this immediate, quick, snappy response just yet with you. From there, if she doesn't comply with it, you'll mark with no. I'll give a tap on the e-collar here, and then you could repeat your command again after that. And then once she gets next to you, just put her into a down for a couple seconds, make sure she holds it, then you can release her to do what she wants to do. Very good.
Down.
Then give her a second. Then just let her hold that for a minute. If you want, you could pet her. If she gets up, though, you have to tell her no for that still. Very good. And then once you think she's nice and stable, just release her with okay.
Okay.
Perfect.
Good girl.
And you give her a minute, let her get distracted again, then we'll do another.
The problem what we created in her was they would all three go outside. And
sure.
You'd open the door.
It's the rush of energy.
Through the door.
Yep.
Food and
Yeah, definitely. That definitely has something to do with it. And that's what we were talking about before you came out here. A lot of this starts with being able to control her when she gets into those stimulated states of mind. Because like a lot of these dogs, they'll just like go 0 to 60, but then just be like mindless with it. You know, like they're not even thinking, and you have no ability to like get through the fog with it. So by working on drills like this where we let her get all amped up with stuff and then just have a quick off switch for it, that helps teach her to not take it too far. Perfect.
Oh, wait, you cut the button.
Go ahead and walk a little bit further away and try that one more time.
I'm staying over here.
Yeah. There we go. And then go ahead and put her into a down. And give her a second. Let's make sure she gets all the way into it. If she doesn't, you're going to mark with no for that. No. And then you can tell her down again. Go ahead and tell her down again. Down. There we go. So even though she went into that down after the correction, we always want to reiterate the command then after the fact. So that formula of the no mark, then the tap, then the command, regardless of what she does, we're always going to use all three of those. So even if, let's say, you said no and immediately she went into the down before you had a chance to give a tap, you would still tap and then you would still say down, right? I just tell everybody, the goal with the corrections and stuff is that we want to hit a point where we don't need to do it, right? I corrected her the first 3 times that I did it, and then the last 2 reps she did perfectly without a correction, right? So if you're finding yourself needing to use it constantly, generally speaking, you're either not being consistent enough about where you're applying it or the motivation isn't high enough. So that's why we tend to, especially in this stage of training, work a little bit higher on it, is with that goal of we don't want to have to do it a lot.
Schatzi, come.
Then give your down.
Down.
Beautiful. And you were joking around, obviously, about the fetch stuff, but this is how you would start to actually teach her to bring it back to you as well. Yeah. So why don't you go ahead and release her, and then grab that thing and throw it for her.
Okay.
Or she'll grab it first. That's fine. So if you notice that was happening too much, what you could do is before you release her, pick it up, and then release her and throw it. You know. What I want to do next is we are going to take a look at reintroducing her back to the dogs one at a time. We'll start with probably the Australian Shepherd because it sounds like she's a little bit better with him, right? And what I'll do for this is I'm going to put her on a leash and I'm going to put her into a down command next to me. And I'm just going to have her hold that while the other dog comes out first, just to make sure that she can keep herself under control around the dog. And then from there, we'll let a little bit of interaction happen. So. No, down. So right now I'm telling her, don't worry about the other dogs, right? Obviously, she'll be able to interact with them and stuff like that. We're not telling you you could never do it, but we're ultimately creating this association that I am in charge of this situation right now. Don't get yourself all stimulated. So, and depending on the dog, you know, sometimes I would just let the interaction happen and just correct if I needed to. But given the fact that the dogs are much older, obviously, I don't want her bullying them and all over them and stuff like that. A lot of this, and I think we talked over the phone initially when you first signed up, a lot of this is going to come down to, because they are a little bit older, just teaching her to just kind of leave them be. You know what I mean? Let them just kind of relax, and if they want to engage with her a little bit, that's fine, but she doesn't need to be pushing them. They're not her source of entertainment right now.
Cowers down to her, but at the same time...
Like she cowers to the older one, you said?
Yeah.
Yep.
But at the same time, and then the older one will grab her.
Yeah, sure.
And correct her.
Yep.
And then if she got to the point where she was like, okay.
We see that a lot with when you get an older dog and then a younger dog. It's like the older one tries to kind of keep them in line a little bit, but as the younger one gets a little bigger, a little stronger, a little more confident, they start kind of challenging them back a little bit, you know? So give her a couple more minutes there. I want to make sure that she's focused on me, and then what we'll do is I'll release her, and then I'll just kind of set some boundaries as far as if she does get a little too pushy with him and just correcting for that. Okay. Okay. And obviously she's free now, so if she gets up when he's sniffing her, totally fine. She's just trying to make sure she's doing the right thing. Very good.
So when she's released, can I call her over and play with her, or is that mixing signals?
that would be, at least at this stage in things, what we're doing right now, a little bit of a mixed signal, because what I want to not do is with the other dogs right now is create a lot of energy, right? Yeah. So I don't mind, obviously, yeah, if we release her, technically she's free, so you wouldn't be wrong by calling her over and playing with her, but that would be giving the mixed message of getting her amped up around the other dogs, where it might start turning into an issue again. So right now, at least when they're together with each other, I'd be trying to keep things as calm as possible. So this is great. Obviously, right now this looks pretty good. So in a minute here, what we'll do is we'll put him away, and we'll bring the older dog out, and we'll see what we get with that. So you can definitely tell a little bit more amped up when she came out. So not that that's necessarily an issue, but we want to make sure we have that, that control, obviously. And how old did you say she is? She's 13. 13, 14. Looks like a wolf.
Yeah.
The gray. Aw.
She was the color of Schatzi when she was young.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's very impressive. I mean, 14 years old is very good.
Yeah.
Nice.
What's wrong with you? You're not in my face.
There's likely a degree of apprehension also, you know. She's probably like, what's going on? Why are you here? You could be messing with me again. Because you can tell she's almost proactively kind of like asserting herself over her a little bit.
Keep the horses. We used to live.
Very good. All right, so let's go ahead and we're going to walk them back inside here next.
Okay.
And just see how the energy changes as we enter the house, obviously.
Princess.
So obviously I put her on the leash as we go in to control some of the energy and stuff here right now. Okay. Not that you're going to have to do that all the time by any means, but our initial goal here, I always say, for the first week or so is we just want to keep everybody successful, and we're just teaching new rules. So if we know that she has a habit of getting real amped up going in or going out, we want to make sure we're doing something to start to combat that a little bit and just start patterning in a new habit, essentially. Schatzi, bed. Good. We'll just let her chill there for a minute. Feels like I'm hanging out with my sister.
I know. She seems pretty happy.
So this whole first week, like we talked about, we're setting boundaries. So any of those types of things, right? Furniture access, how we want her treating them as far as not getting too pushy with them or anything, stuff like that. All of those things are just going to be a correction. So if I do catch her on the couch, I would correct her with the e-collar for that. Okay. If I did catch her jumping, right, I would correct her for that. Okay. Any of those other types of things that you might see.
There we go.
Let's see it. Big jump. Nice.
She's like, shit, I want to do it a lot.
Yeah.
There you go.
All right, let's go ahead and we're going to walk into the kitchen. They can stay here, do whatever. I just want to see if they migrate into there or if they stay in this area or not. And then the other thing that I want to be mindful of, because this is something we'll see sometimes with the German Shepherds, is that once they get out, even after you release them, they'll come out and then like they turn around wanting to like jump on whatever else is coming out, right? So I would kind of keep an eye on if I noticed anything like that too. So, but the important thing is just that initial burst of energy as we let them out, that she doesn't get all amped up. And that was something with the doorways we worked on quite a bit with her, is just teaching that that door opening doesn't mean anything super stimulating. Thresholds in general that are closed, it's implied that when we go to open that, until we release you through it, you're not allowed to go through it. So we'll give her a minute. We're going to take her outside. If you want to, they can come out if they want to, obviously, or if they want to stay in there. We're going to work just some general commands and stuff like that here next. Just kind of have you guys handling her a little bit. No. And you can tell that little burst of energy, right, of going back in right there. She's kind of like looking at him, then looking over there. That's what I mean about that wanting to kind of jump on the stuff and making sure we're correcting for it if we see it. Yeah, I mean, all these behaviors, like even that turn around and nip thing, right? It's not like aggression from the standpoint of she like wants to like attack the other dog. It's just really, really intense like bullying behavior, you know? And it just turns into fights. Yeah. So yeah, this is our job right now, is just with all the animals. It's just she's got to just leave them alone a little more. Same deal, that mouth thing and stuff like that. No. And we'll see that a lot. Obviously, another big point of contention in multi-dog households is attention, right? If you look at the 3 big resources dogs will typically fight over: food, toys, affection. This one obviously is a big one. So right there, for as harmless as that seems, it's still kind of a controlling behavior if she doesn't like that he's coming into her space. Yeah. So I want her in that situation, if she gets overwhelmed by that, just to move away like she did right there. Very good.
Okay, you want to go in?
Same deal, making sure she's waiting.
Okay.
Beautiful.
Want to come out?
There we go. Much better.
Okay.
All right, so in a minute here, what we're going to do is we're going to work some of our off-leash healing with her, so you guys can kind of see how we go about enforcing some of that. So we did our downstays already, pretty straightforward. This next one, the off-leash healing, is just the come command. So our come command means not only come to us, but stay with us. So what I'm going to do in a second is I'm going to call her with come. Once she gets next to me, I'm just going to kind of walk down this path and back a couple times, and I just want to see her stay in my bubble as I do that.
Schatzi, come.
Very good. And with this one, there's no expectation she has to be on like your left or right or anything. We just expect that she's actively following us when we do it. Pretty good. Well, here's one important thing, right? So obviously this first week is very important to keep success, right? And if you have experienced in the past that a lot of the incidents happen when you guys are not actually here, you've got to make sure that there's, you know, if you run into over this next week situations where you're not going to be here and the kids are going to be watching them or somebody else is going to be watching them or something like that, honestly, my recommendation, since they're not here to like learn all this kind of stuff, is probably just to keep them separated. Yeah. You know? You just don't want to run into a situation where like you guys are putting in all this work to kind of start to combat this stuff, and you're getting there, but you're not quite there yet. And then, you know, they're here and they miss something or whatever, and then something happens and it sets you back again, you know? The what? Oh, I got you. They get command happy.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Yeah.
But they won't follow through with it,
sure.
like you're saying.
So here's the thing, right? When it comes to that, let's say hypothetically, like you guys are really on top of this and you're enforcing everything, you're following through, et cetera, but they're command happy. They're asking the dog to do things all the time and they're not backing it up and stuff like that. She's not going to listen to them, but it's not going to impact how she listens to you guys.
Okay.
Right? So obviously try to tell them like, hey, let's pump the brakes a little bit on asking a ton of commands, but like, I don't really give a shit what they're doing right now.
Okay.
You know, until we actively sit down and say like, hey, you guys are in charge of her in these situations, it just doesn't really matter that much. Okay. So that's no different than if I have some of my family members come over the house, like my parents will come over and they'll be like, sit down, this, that, you know what I mean? Like to try to get them to do something. My dogs aren't listening to them, right? And it doesn't matter. Beautiful. And then go ahead and leave her there. Now let's say hypothetically you walk away here, she gets up, right? We would obviously mark with no and give her correction, but then we have to reset her as close back to that same spot as we can. So you'd walk her all the way back over there, then put her back into a down. So we'll give her 1 more minute there. And then once you think she's relatively stable, not getting up or anything, you can release her out of that position.
Down?
Yeah, good question. So let's say right now she got up and ran over here. We would tell her no and give her correction for that, but then we would have to take her back to that spot.
Okay.
Because we wouldn't expect for her to like know where to go back to, right, or fix herself necessarily. It's our job to reset her then.
Okay.
Like tell her no?
No.
Now what I want you to do is you're going to walk all the way back to that spot she was in, call her back over to you, and then put her back into a down there. Oops. Very good. Yeah, they'll start learning they can get like 20 feet, 30 feet, 40 feet, so. Now, what you will see is if you do too much, like putting her in a down, walking away and calling her out to you, she'll start jumping the gun and anticipating. Generally speaking, I try to avoid doing too much of that, right? So like right now, like in this position, for example, ooh, this cow's really, yeah. Now, obviously, we will say that that's probably acceptable, that she could break the command in that situation.
Is the cow is coming together?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I don't know what these cows are going to do when they get to her, but I would rather her just avoid, like, the livestock and the animals and stuff.
Yeah, and she went and laid down over there instead.
Yeah,
so.
exactly. Okay. So, you know, obviously, we're just doing this for training exercises. You probably don't need to worry about too many downstays in here, you know. More than anything, my criteria would be if she comes in here, I just don't want her chasing the animals, so. So assuming you guys are generally outside for the most part and stuff, your downstays, your come commands are going to be your important commands. But inside the house, definitely utilize that bed stay just to create a little bit of calm. Like if you guys are hanging out in here, so she's not all like underfoot and getting in the way of the dogs and stuff like that. Biggest and most important task you have this week is not even so much the obedience stuff, it's just setting the rules of the house, right? So you're going to be setting any boundaries of things you don't want her to do, whether it's jumping up on the furniture, rushing through the doorways, trying to nip and get jealous while being pets, situations like that. And you just really, really got to get yourself into that mindset of being aware of the situations she would typically misbehave in, right? So you know when you're petting the dogs that she tends to get mouthy. So every time you're petting the dogs, you got to be mindful and ready to correct for it if she goes to do it. You know she gets bad about going through the doorways, and once she does go through the doorways, trying to kind of jump and nip at the other dogs, so you got to be ready to correct that every time she goes to do it, et cetera, right? Same deal with chasing the animals or any of those types of things. Second thing I would be really, really aware of is not creating too much extra energy, right? Because most of these issues you're having with her right now are a result of too much energy and not being able to control that energy enough. So when you're petting, when you're interacting, when you're playing, just try to keep it a little calmer than you generally would, right? That'll help keep her successful through some of this kind of stuff. Third thing, obviously disengaging her with obedience commands whenever you see that she is a heightened state of mind, just to help her kind of calm down and make sure you have that really good off switch with things. Just like what we did when I got her out of the car, practicing that come to down just to kind of settle her down. Using your downstays and your bed stays for more prolonged periods of time to help her settle into that chill state of mind. I just want to see her overall around the property in a much more respectful state of mind of you guys and a little bit less of that mindset of like, oh my God, I got all this land, I can do whatever I want to do, right? Because that's kind of how a lot of this stuff builds up. Big thing, interaction towards the other dogs, I really want her just ignoring them unless those dogs are actively engaging with her. Right? If they're engaging with her, she could sniff and stuff, but like she really doesn't need to be trying to play with them or anything. Like obviously these are not the dogs that are going to be playing with her, you know, and roughhousing like she likes to play with other dogs. So I would be setting those boundaries of if she's going and messing with them, just correcting her for it to teach her just leave them alone. Obviously your off-leash heeling and stuff like that, those are things you could work on throughout the house, throughout the property, but those aren't going to directly impact so much a lot of the problems you're having as much as just setting the rules and boundaries of things. Those are going to be more things that we implement as we start getting into, like if you start taking her places and stuff, which is something I think she would really benefit from, is just getting off the property from time to time and just getting around things, right? That way she could just make sure she's not just too much in just this world. Do you generally just have him free when people are coming in, or do you?
So here's what we generally do. Generally, I have to let him out to pee because
Sure,
he'll do an excited pee instantly.
Okay. I don't think he did. I'll take it.
So generally, he does a very excited pee.
Sure.
We also have a Pong with peanut butter
Okay.
that he has, and then he does this, and then we try to put him in a down.
All right.
And it's not I mean, it's our.
That's
really
okay.
bad.
That's all right. That's why we're here.
We need the tune-up. It's
Oh,
probably
no, it's no big deal. A lot of this is just having better routines for stuff,
Okay.
you know? So we want to be more proactive as opposed to reactive to
Yes.
him, right? Meaning, instead of waiting until he's doing all this, and then it's like, all right, now we got to settle you down and all this, we want to proactively have something that we do every time people come over so that, one, he has a predictable expectation, right, which makes things easier to follow, obviously, and two, it doesn't allow him to escalate so much in the first place, and then three, ultimately, any corrections we need to give for not doing that expectation are going to be much easier for him to follow because it's the same thing every time.
Yeah.
Right? So let's start with this. Let me see your remote real quick. So first expectation here right now is I don't want him jumping. So if he jumps, one of you's got to mark with no for it. Hi, bud. He's like, I'm not going to jump now. Yeah. Hi, dude. Yeah, see, now he's being perfect with it, obviously. But nonetheless, right, so he jumped probably 10 times just there. We weren't giving any direction through it. So that's a lot of this, right? Again, proactively being in a, let's see. Proactively being in a position to start combating some of these types of things, right? These are going to make this just 10,000 times easier, right? So honestly, though, like all in all, like this wasn't anywhere near as bad as I thought it was. Not that I thought it was going to be terrible by any means, but this was actually not too shabby given the fact that we didn't give any commands or corrections or anything like that. So I'll take it. So couple things we're going to do today, right? So first and foremost, I want to make sure we have a clear black and white routine we can hold him to every time people come over, right? Regardless of who it is, because a lot of times, like you were saying, like with me, he's a little calmer right now. With your sister, he's real jacked up. With your parents, he's probably somewhere in the middle. You know what I mean? Like there's just inconsistency with it. As we apply consistently the expectation of, in this case, it's going to be holding the bed for probably 15 minutes when people come over with a clear way we're correcting it. What's going to happen is regardless of how excited he gets when he sees these people, he's going to start seeing them kind of as the same.
Okay,
right?
that'd be great.
And that energy level will kind of even out a little bit.
We're having this one, and I'm sure people are gonna want to come over.
Naturally, yeah. So this is a great time, obviously, to. No, that's okay. And listen, like this is going to be very easy to get him kind of reeled back in with some of these things. So I'm not overly concerned about that by any means. How much longer do you guys have?
3.5 weeks.
Coming up soon.
May 4th.
Yeah. All right. So we got next couple weeks here. We're buckling down, obviously, and we're going to get things real under control here.
Perfect.
So no big deal. Bed stay, we're going to make sure that we get the routine when people are coming over consistent. That's going to be something you guys are going to follow, especially with the baby coming. We're going to go over nails, obviously. We'll take a look at that, make sure that everything looks good there. All right. So real black and white here. So do people come through the garage usually?
So
is that standard?
I try to, because of this peen thing, that I try to have them do generally the garage. But it's a mixture.
Okay.
It's a mixture.
Well, we'll kind of run it with both a couple of times and see what we get with it. So here's what I want to do. We're going to have you be the stranger coming over here and simulate that a couple of times. We will start with the front door because it'll be a little bit easier since it'll be kind of in eyesight of the bed. And then you're going to be the one that actively gives him the commands with this. So a couple things here. So what we're going to do is obviously in a minute, you'll go outside, just wait out there for a minute, something like that. And then what I want you to do is either knock or ring on the door. Ring the doorbell, one or the other. And after that happens, what you're going to do is you're going to walk to the bed. Don't say a word to him until you get to the bed. Once you get next to the bed, you could give that bed command one time. Give him a second to comply with it. If he doesn't do it, you'll mark with no. We'll give our correction, then we'll give the bed command again. All right.
So you want me to go outside?
Yeah, you can go out through that way and then just go to the front door. And like I said, give it a good knock. So a lot of this, like I said, is just going to come down to more consistency with the corrections and also probably a higher level. If you're used to working them lower for some things, these types of things, it's generally much higher for. So we'll give them a second. We'll see what we get.
Bordering and the
So go ahead and give your bed command.
Grady bed.
Very good. And don't worry about a down or anything on it. All I care about is that he holds the bed. So now what I want you to do is walk over there and let him in and just be ready to tell him no if he gets off of the bed. And don't worry about the barking or anything like that. All I care about is that he physically stays on the bed. We'll just let him chill there for a minute. All right, why don't you go ahead and release him? Okay. Hi, bud. You can't jump on me, though. If you do, your mom's going to tell you no. All right, so I'm going to have you go outside again here.
Okay.
wait out there for a minute or so, and then knock and like ring the doorbell or something. It's no big deal. So that's fine, obviously. So now you can go ahead and give him the command.
Bed.
Give him a second. Very good. And then you can go ahead and let him on in.
Hello.
Hello.
Good to see you at all.
Well-behaved dog.
Wow, that's, yeah.
So we'll give him a minute.
David's gonna move in with us.
I used to tell everybody I'd make a killing off making fat heads.
Oh my God,
You know,
should.
those stickers
Seriously,
that they make of the
actually.
athletes and
Seriously,
stuff, right?
Seriously.
Just have one on the wall or something like that. Yeah, yeah. All right, go ahead and release him off. Okay. Very good.
He's afraid of it.
That's all right. So go ahead and walk to the bed, and then give
Okay.
your bed command one time.
Bed.
And then give him a second. Let's see if he comes down. If he doesn't, we'll mark with no for that. Beautiful. Oh. Tell him no.
No.
And then tell him bed
Bed.
again. Perfect. Now that time we were at about a 65, so
Okay.
even higher,
wow.
obviously.
So-
A little bit more heightened of a state of
Okay.
mind. So don't be surprised if you're in those higher levels for these things as you're
Okay.
working on them. And then you can go ahead and let him in.
Okay. Oh, I forgot this one.
Very good. A little scared of the doorbell. He was.
He's
That's a new sound.
No biggie. So this is a good opportunity to start working him through that.
But actually, he ran up and David just had me do the command.
All right, go ahead and release him.
Okay. Yeah.
Ever even correct at like a 20 or
Good question.
anything like
Yeah.
that?
Generally, in this stage of the training, no.
Okay.
And the reason for that is because those lower levels, I look at more of like teaching levels, right? If I'm teaching a bed stay and he's learning how to stay
Okay.
there and he steps off, it's like, I don't want it to be super motivating, but I want it to be enough where he's like, oh, okay, that was wrong. I should try something else,
Okay.
right? At this stage in the training, any places you're gonna need to give a correction are gonna be things he really knows, right? Like, he knows he shouldn't jump on people, right? He knows he shouldn't break a bed stay at this point.
Yeah.
He knows he shouldn't, whatever, freak out at something going on out the window. You know what I mean? So those things we're correcting with the goal of we shouldn't need to correct the
Okay.
next time.
That makes sense.
So,
The other thing that he's been doing a lot is like finding one of Ellie, our son's toys,
Sure.
and just shredding it to
yeah,
bits.
yeah.
So what do you? I don't even.
I would correct for it still if I saw him doing it, right?
Because a lot of times we find it after the fact. What
Yeah,
do we do?
nothing you can do about it then.
Okay.
If you didn't actually catch him do
Okay.
it, yeah, there's
Okay.
there's only so much you can do about it then at that point.
Sneaky little.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we find. Oh yeah.
Sometimes if you find yourself with whatever, something like that, like him grabbing toys that aren't his and shredding them, if you find like a consistent place that he's doing that and you're not catching it consistently, try to set it up, right? So leave him alone in the area where the toys are for 45 minutes, and you could either just kind of watch him from around the corner where he doesn't think you're watching him, or you could set up a phone on FaceTime or
that's it,
something,
yeah.
you know what I mean? So that you could catch him doing it once or twice. So,
They're like, yeah, my dog's crazy.
nice. So go ahead and give your command.
Bed.
Give him a second.
No. Bed.
Mark with no one more time.
No. Bed. So is it
Perfect.
Was this too much of a prompt?
No. So
Okay.
so we could give help after the correction.
Okay.
Right? We just don't want to give it like initially like bed,
Okay.
right? But let's say right there you told him bed, he didn't do it, we corrected, he still didn't do it, you corrected, then you could
Okay,
assist.
because he seems like almost like
Yeah.
just
The help can come, it just has to be after we've
Okay.
corrected.
Okay.
Very good. So we'll give him a second here and then we're gonna do that one more time with the doorbell.
What I couldn't really see. What
He just was like.
He got confused.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was explaining to her, we're still correcting, right? Because he still didn't do it, but after that correction, she gave a little bit of help, which is totally fine. Cool. Give it a whirl.
Should I say his name?
You can.
Grady. Bed.
Give him a second. See what he does. Beautiful.
Good.
Very, very good. Yeah, you can give that command wherever he's at. It doesn't
Okay.
matter. And yeah, if you want to prompt him with Grady bed, totally fine. All right, go and let him on in. Not too shabby.
That was good.
Very, very good. Okay. Hey, Grady, come here. Hi, buddy. Hello. All right. Okay, so next step of this obviously would be if somebody were actually coming over, right? So knock, doorbell, whatever. We get him situated on his bed. We have them come in. Then we would have him hold that for about 15 minutes, right? That I found is the sweet spot of it lets the energy of, oh my God, somebody's here, kind of come down a little bit to a manageable level. Yeah, 15 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, obviously somewhere in that range, but it's got to be way longer than like just a couple minutes, right? And then once you see him kind of chill out on it, then you could release him and let him be a part of things. And at that point, the only expectation would be we don't want him jumping or anything.
What if he does that, create the like whining?
It's fine.
Okay.
Yeah. You're gonna find the first couple times you do it, he probably will whine most of the time on it because he's not used to needing to hold himself back that much. We're not correcting for the whining, we're not correcting for the barking or anything, but what I am gonna do is I'm gonna keep an eye on him if he is doing that, because if he is making a lot of noise on the bed, it's generally a pretty telltale sign he's gonna make a mistake in a minute and step off. And I'm just gonna capitalize on that. And that's where, again, getting back to level wise, I'm gonna give a much bigger correction for that.
You do not correct for the excited pee, do you?
No, there's nothing you do about it, right? That's an arousal issue, and we got to make sure we're reducing the arousal. And actually, the 15 minutes on the bed, that will help with that so much. Because you're going to see by the time he goes to interact with the person, the energy level's going to be so much calmer at that point.
And then if he starts revving, so again, if he does the jump, like, do we...
No. So once we've released him, we're not going to stop him from jumping by asking him to go on the bed. We're just going to correct the jumping. Right? So step one is after doorbell or knock, we put him on the bed, right? Before we let that person in. Then we go let him in, obviously. Step number two is he holds that bed stay for about 15 minutes. And like, set a mental timer or whatever you got to do and make sure that any breaking of command, firm correction for it, right? You really, for a lot of this stuff, are probably not going to be any lower than like a 70 or a 75. So,
Yes.
and again, that's with the expectation. You'll see after correcting at those higher levels for those things, you're not going to need to do it that much. He'll start actually avoiding those corrections, right? Which is our goal. We shouldn't need to be tapping this, right? Constantly, at least. And then step number three is we release him from the bed once he's calm after about 15 minutes, right? And then the only expectation of him at that point is no jumping. If he jumps, we're just telling him no and tapping the button.
Okay, and that's also at like a 70, 75?
Pretty high level still, yep. And that's really what your routine is going to be. Now, I say 75 or so. It's probably going to be in that range. And I really don't want you going too much lower than that. But if you start running into a boat where it's like he's doing really well and you're correcting at 75 and it does seem like it's just way too much, you can back it off a little bit. But again, keep in mind, we do want it to be pretty motivating still. Right?
Makes sense.
Okay, so that's going to solve that problem. That should really, really clean up the guest coming over issue and get that to a place where it's just going to be calm. And I would also even potentially recommend that you start prepping him for when people come over, maybe even longer than 15 minutes. You might even want to go 30, 45 minutes and stuff. And the reason why is because when the baby comes, he can't be a part of everything.
Yeah.
I mean, he really does need to be a little more independent when people are coming over, because people are going to be coming over to see the baby and hang out with you guys and help you guys with things where they don't need to be worried about him underfoot constantly with everything. So
we talked about people coming over and him getting revved up.
Yep.
There's also random times where we're here by ourselves.
Sure.
And for whatever reason, he gets revved up and like, let's say we're playing on the floor over there with our son.
Yep.
And we've got train set out or whatever. And Grady just,
He just needs to be like in the middle.
in the middle.
Yeah.
And just like,
Is he doing anything? Meaning, like, is he pawing at you or trying to grab the things that you're playing with or anything like that?
typically
More pawing at me a little bit than anything.
sometimes.
But more so just like, I need to be, like, you're playing with this train set,
Sure.
I need to be the train
Like-
set. Like, I need to,
Yeah. Well, a couple things, right? So thing number one is I try to look for if there's anything specifically he's doing that we can correct for. That's first thing we want to look at, right? And again, nice firm correction with that. Just get those things under control, right? Thing number two would be if he's not actively doing something wrong, like let's say you're playing with a train set over there, you're hanging out, and he's not scratching at you, he's not like barking in your face, he's just really excited and just kind of in your business.
That's more a problem.
That's where we would use a command or something to help
Put
him
him
out,
on a
right?
bed, like,
Yeah. So commands are for management when the dog isn't doing anything wrong, but we need them out of the way.
Okay.
Right? Like he's not doing anything wrong by being over there, but we need you out of the way. Corrections just by themselves are for things that the dog is not allowed to do, right? And we don't use obedience commands to stop him from doing things he's not allowed to do. We use corrections for that. We just use those obedience commands to help manage him. When he's fine, we just need him to do something else right now.
So sometimes when Grady's on the bed, I mean, our son's 2, and he loves our dog. So he'll like all of a sudden run over and try to like jump on him, and then Grady gets off the bed, which I feel like is...
So you get into like obedience with exceptions, right? Let's say hypothetically that situation happened, I would not correct him for it, because I want him, if he feels like if he's stressed, he could just go somewhere else. That's very good, right? Now, that being said, you really want to try your best to manage that a little, which I'm sure you guys are doing, right? But make sure that's happened very infrequently, because the problem is if it happens too much, then he starts learning bed is optional, which we don't want. But I don't want to correct him for it, but I also don't want him learning that bed is optional. I think all in all, I think nothing too crazy here. I mean, honestly, like he really wasn't that bad with anything. So, you know, I think it's just a matter of you guys got to set yourself up for success by proactively giving him that direction. So that routine, 100% of the time when guests come over right now, I don't care who it is, I don't care if he loves the person, hates the person, whatever, that's how you're going to be handling that right now. I'd like to see you maybe, you don't have to do it anytime soon because those nails will be filed back pretty far, but maybe every couple weeks, try to just real quick session with it. You know, just like we did. And he was pretty high. I mean, he was at a 95 at the end there. So you're going to be working him much higher for some of this stuff at this point. That's the determining factor we find like at this stage of training where like he's doing really good with some things. Like the walk is great, right? Like I'm sure commands and stuff around no distractions is probably pretty good. But like in the house when he's really overstimulated, he doesn't listen as well, stuff like that. The determining factor truly is the level high enough, right? And are we correcting at the right spot?
What do we do with like someone who's watching Grady? With who doesn't understand the training protocol?
Are you talking like a family member or like a pet sitter or something?
Florida.
Yeah.
And so we found someone who's willing to stay here
for
pretty cheap.
Yeah.
So, but she doesn't know the protocol, like.
Yeah. Well, here are the positives, right? The positives is Grady's not like an aggressive monster where you have to worry about him like attacking the person or anything like that. So I always tell everybody, I don't have any expectation of people that are not me training my dogs. You know what I mean? So it's kind of one of those things where like you know where his problem areas are or the areas where he would give them a hard time, meaning like the walk, right? Or situations like that. So it's like, just don't do that. Just literally come here and keep my dog alive for 3 weeks. You know what I mean?
That was, because we've been wondering with this one person, just when we go for that long.
I mean, that's a really good point, and like, they're never having people over. Right? So
exactly.
That's kind of like, it's really,
that's it. Set your ground rules of what they cannot do as opposed to the things that they should do. That makes it so much easier. Like, do not take him for a walk, right?
Although, to be fair, I haven't heard any complaints about taking him on a walk.
Totally, again, 100%, like I'm just looking at like if we really wanted to make sure there was no problems, right? Let's say the walk is fine, right? And they're not having issues with it, okay, totally fine. What I would do is make sure that they're walking him on a collar that there is zero chance he could slip out of, just in case, right, as a precaution, obviously. Again, don't have people come over the house, not that they would be doing that anyways, but like you can't do that, obviously. And then if there's any other ground rules you have for them, you know?
That's
like, should we even have them put on the e-collar?
Because they're not going to know what to do with it. You know?
Well, we have noticed that he really is much more relaxed with the e-collar on. Is that
it's because you're giving direction. He knows what's expected of him.
Just like if the second comes off, he's like, I'm like, what is so weird?
Yeah, I don't have like when I go out of town, like there's some times I'm gone for 10 days, 14 days, stuff like that. And you know, I board my dogs at the facility, obviously, and like Vinny, my Malinois, like he's kind of like a one family dog, right? Like he'll give him a hard time with some things and stuff like that every now and then if they're not giving him good direction and stuff. And I'm okay with like he generally will just kind of sit in a kennel, and it's like, just keep my dog alive, please. You know what I mean? Like you not working with my dog is not going to make a difference once I get home.